I am so excited today, you guys. I'm going to introduce you to one of the most incredible women leaders in business that I've ever met. Dana Lagattuta is a mom of two. She's an incredible mom. She's an incredible wife, and she is one of the most amazing leaders in business. She's well over a $500,000 earner and probably going over $1 million in income personally this year. So Dana.
Yes, hi Jamie.
Mompreneur, hi, I love you.
I love you.
We have known each other for
14 years
14,
maybe?
15 years now. And why don't you tell them first kind of how we met, or your background, your story.
So I fell in love with Jamie the first time I met her. I was working for Prudential, and it was just a job, really, and I was working my way up, and I saw a lot of the ugly in the industry, and I was just looking for something great, and maybe helping families, and I don't know, sort of correcting an injustice based on what I'd seen at Prudential, and I just landed a meeting with you, and I walked in, and the rest was history. I just fell in love with your passion, and I fell in love with the crusade, and it was so what I was looking for at that time. I was really prepared for it.
Yeah,
so
it was kind of a chance meeting. I remember you and your husband were working for the same company in different departments. And did your company decide that they were going to lay everybody off? They were moving out of state for like cheaper employment. Is that what it was?
Pretty much, yep. The special projects unit that we were a part of was done, and they wanted to relocate or let us go. So we were let go both at the same time. Just married and let go at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah, it's bad enough to get laid off. It's really bad when you both get laid off at the same time.
And so Frank, your husband, he went off and he got another job in the industry.
Yes.
And you decided to try to go into
mortgage,
being self-employed as a loan officer.
Yes.
And I remember you were kind of calling around saying, hey, do you know anybody that's refinancing? Do you know anybody that's buying a home?
Yes.
And you called one of your friends and they said something like,
I was asking for referrals for financial planners or realtors, because I knew that's what would feed my business a little bit.
Yeah.
And my friend said, yeah, I know this financial planner, and that was the person that introduced us. But what was funny is when I went there, I was literally preparing to enroll you to give me referrals, right? I wanted your referrals, right, for the mortgage side, and little did I know it was going to be the best thing that ever happened, and I was going to be on your side.
Yeah. I just remember the day you came into my office, and we just sat there, we chatted, like instantly became friends, and I just knew, I'm like, this gal's going to be my business. She's going to be a superstar. And I remember, actually, one of our other mentors, trainers, friends was in the office that day.
Yes.
And while we were talking, I don't know if you know this, but I went into his office down the hall, and I'm like, this gal is awesome. Pick anyone, and I will get her promoted before you guys.
That's awesome.
Before you get him promoted, and because I just had so much belief in you, and that's not typically something that I'll do. I believe in don't pick your winners too early. You never know. You can there's never been a test that's ever been designed, or a questionnaire, or anything that can measure the heart of a man or a woman in their desire to do something great with their life. But with you, I just knew that something was special. And you came in, you went full time right away, jumped in.
Yeah.
And so tell us about that. Like, this is a slightly new part of the industry, and you had just been laid off.
Yes.
So what made you decide to go all in as an entrepreneur, not just being self-employed, but really as a business owner?
So there's two main things I think that helped me make that happen. Number one was that three. Number one, I didn't have a job. So I wasn't about to go look for one, right? I had already been a self-employed individual, so I just sort of eased into it. But the first thing was the support from my husband. Like, he literally retired me from corporate America and allowed me to look at the business and go full time and give it my all. And then, right, as much as we joke about it, like, your belief in me and just anybody's belief in people, that really is something I borrowed a lot from early on, right? Just to stay the course.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of support is the point.
Yeah, I love that. You definitely had a supportive spouse. You didn't have any kids yet.
Not
you were
yet.
newlyweds.
Correct.
But I think what you said is really important here about borrowing other people's belief. And if you are someone who's building a team, an agency, or trying to develop leaders, under you, that's such a big deal of just showing them how much you believe in them. And with you, it was easy.
Right.
It was easy.
For you, yes.
Yeah.
And I appreciated it.
I just felt like, you're always looking for that super, I call it coachable, dynamic, excited person. And that's what you are. You said, what do I do next, coach?
Yeah.
And so we immediately went out, started helping families. Yes. And I remember you early on saying, Jamie, can I go out on my own now? And I was like, not yet. You haven't passed your test yet.
That's right.
So how did you have confidence so early?
I was always pretty confident, but I got to tell you, being naive helped a lot. Like, I was too naive to be to know any better. I was too naive to be skeptical. I was too naive to be scared. Therefore, I was really coachable, and I just wanted to get experience, right? So it was a great part of my life, right? Awesome. I wish I was still that now to some degree, right? We grow out of that, but it was a great thing early on, and it helped me a lot in the business.
So naive, just kind of like believing in your company,
that's
believing in your product.
Not jaded, that's right.
Yeah,
no preconceived ideas, no questioning of anything. It was just, it's a great thing.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times people want to have their own business. Women want to start their own business, but they really do have
limiting beliefs,
and they hear, say different things. They really care about what other people think about them, and jaded is a good word that you use.
Yep, preconceived ideas.
Yeah. So as you started to build your business, what were some of the challenges that you faced?
Well, I was, what do they say, a mental pansy to some degree. I just really was very sensitive to the things that I couldn't do right, and it wasn't so easy for me to accept that. And I wanted to win for Jamie, who believed in me, and I wanted to win for my family. My husband had made some sacrifices to allow me to continue to be full-time, so I felt a lot of pressure and responsibility to win. And so that was a little hard on me at times, but then I would reach out to you or Frank, and you guys would be just so unbelievably supportive and forgiving and just coach me through it, right? Yeah. I'll never forget when I would go home and I would just be in a weird place where I would be venting to my husband, and he would just be like, suck it up. I didn't know I married a quitter. Stop it. Right? Do you think it was going to be easy? And just these little things that would really make the difference. Or your phone call to me and I would shift immediately. So who we're around and who we allow to influence us is so critical. That was huge for me.
I love that you listened to people that you knew care about you, and that you reached out to mentors. I think that was important for me too.
Yes.
Just to reach out to people that I know had my best interests at heart, instead of just what I wanted to do was throw the covers over my head and cry.
Well, in my case, I wasn't even me reaching out. Jamie just has this like intuition and knew when to reach out to me, and you did it all the time. You reached out to me, and it was almost like you put me in my element to win. You just fixed things for me, and it was without even realizing it, right? And I wanted to respond to that.
I mean, I think when you're building people, especially ones that you really believe in, that you know could be, do something great with their life, you got to put them in positions to win and to gain their confidence. And that's really important. Okay, so as you started to grow, you started to make more money. You started to get more confidence. Were there ever failures that you maybe learned from? What were some of your failures and some of the biggest things that failures that you learned from?
I don't know if these are actually failures so much as awarenesses of areas that I was very weak and I could have produced a result of failure perhaps, being perhaps too sensitive to certain things as a leader. As a woman in business, regardless of the gender in business, you really have to have thick skin, and you really have to be okay not being accepted by everybody or having people question your integrity. That was really hard for me, and so in that weakness, a little bit I would call it, or just I guess who I am, I oftentimes responded to it in not a good way, in a way that took it personally or was ultra emotional instead of being level-headed and moving forward. So I created some issues in my business as a result of that and in my life. Again, I don't know that it was failure so much as it was an experience I had to get through. So there's a lot of transitions and turning points that I got stagnant or I got comfortable, but just constant growth, right, I think is the anecdote for failure. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So what were some of the hardest things as far as being a woman?
Balance, right? Balancing things early on. When I did have kids, that constant question of, am I doing the right thing? And am I spending enough time? And in hindsight, it's just, of course we are, right? We have an intuition. We know how much time we need to spend with our family, with our kids, and they're just better for it, right? They're better for having seen us work hard. But I think I got to the point where just attempting to have balance in my life made me happier. Like just the pursuit of it is good.
Right.
Most people don't even pursue that. And then the other thing is, a wise woman said to me once, if Dana's okay, everyone's okay.
Yeah.
Right? So
my biggest, okay,
that's right. Okay. And it's so true, right? It's so true. And so I think for me, the biggest challenge I had was the balance and the acceptance of what that would look like.
Yeah.
Right? And the support from my family, which I got very quickly. You just have to ask sometimes and you'll get.
Yeah. I remember one time it was Thanksgiving or something, and you were going to like a family dinner, you told me, and you grabbed an aunt in the corner of the room and said, so you said something like, you're my family, I expect you to support me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Tell me about that. Like that's because a lot of people
accept it.
It's hard to really
communicate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at some point you sort of don't tolerate it anymore, right? Like if you're passionate about what you're doing and it is your life, look, if they want to say whatever they want to say behind my back is perfectly acceptable. But when I hear it and it's working through my network of they're wrong about what we do, I just got to a point where I'm not going to accept it anymore. It's almost like if you're not going to say anything nice, don't say anything at all, right?
Right.
And so we really corrected and sort of checked, for the lack of a better word, people around us in terms of what we did and how they spoke about it.
Nice.
Right? And just otherwise we get bullied. And so I remember my husband too with his mom, she was like, she was starting to complain about our lifestyle, which is our lifestyles, we're blessed, right? We have such a great lifestyle, but it was just different than the traditional, right?
9 to 5.
Barefoot, pregnant, right, in the kitchen. She would call the house at 9 o'clock and I wouldn't be home. She's like, well, where's Dana? And she made one little negative comment. My husband hung up on her. I'm like, oh, you hung up on your mommy, right? He's like, look, she can't be negative into my life. She raised me. I would expect her to be supportive. And that was very indicative right there of, we should expect people in our lives to support us. Yeah. Period. And when you expect it, you get.
And you asked.
You ask and you shall receive. It's so true.
Yeah.
They just shifted the way they looked at us from that point forward.
I remember that was a turning point for you when you had told me about that story with your aunt and said, you just were so lit up about, I told her how to support me.
That's right.
I told her what I needed from her. And and you said something like, I know you love me. I know you want the best for me. This is what I need from you. Yeah. And your business really took off after that, just because you gained so much confidence instead of
That's right.
having the haters out there that you were worried about. Yeah.
Well, I love what you said. She wanted to support me always, but when they don't know how, they don't know how.
Right.
So it was just shifting and telling her what I needed, which was important.
Yeah.
And I did. I got a lot of referrals from her.
Yeah.
Thereafter.
So a lot of people look at you from when you're on stage training, you're such a powerful speaker. You just have so much conviction, and I don't even know where it comes from. There's no or there's no filler word. It's just this fire in your belly, and you've never had any formal speaking training or anything like that. So where does that come from?
Oh, wow. But if you would have seen me the first time, right? Honestly,
That's a great story too. The first time on stage.
It'll never happen to anybody else. Let's say I took one for the team, but nobody's experience will ever be that bad. But I have to tell you, it's complete and utter conviction and passion for what we do. It doesn't come from anywhere else. Yeah. But part of it comes from my experience prior to this business and where I worked and what I saw. Yeah. You see one side of the industry, and then you can make a difference on the other side, and you're just fired up. I was just fired up about the cause for what we do, and I still am.
Yeah, and early on, you would be in the office early, in the office late, and your business took off.
Yes.
And your people respected you. They looked to you as a leader for guidance, and you just led in that role so well.
Thank you.
And then things started to kind of get crazy. I mean, you started to have children, and I think us as women, that throws a little bit of a wrench in the game.
Especially when we're in the zone.
Yeah. So how did having kids affect business or just your wellness?
Well, I think it was a great thing. Obviously, I was ready, and I saw you as an example be able to do it all. And when you see it, it looks so much easier, right? But you really have to work at it. And at first, it was tough, like I had said, right? Finding that balance. But you know what? When they go through different ages, they go through different stages, and it allows us to shift too. So as long as we're malleable and able to shift for the need of our kids, I think we're fine. And so I got over that very, very quickly. And then I started to see some of the results of the business and the associations my kids had through this business and the other entrepreneurs we were around, and it didn't matter. Nothing else mattered. And what ends up happening is you realize that they fall in love with the business and they expect you to work. And they're proud of mom and dad. And you start paying attention to those things and you're never affected by it again. So I think it was a great thing for us in our business. From a time perspective, we had to shift and adjust and get assistance. And so that's just a different effort, right?
To make little tweaks.
Yes, and you were a great example of that, creating your life to be, you were preparing yourself to win in every area, where you could. You're getting the right people in place and still raising amazing children. You can do it. So it's a constant, I'm trying to perfect it all the time.
Yeah. Well, like you said earlier, you're always just striving for balance. There's never going to be perfect balance. There's never going to be everything's just awesome all the time. But like you said, you saw how it was affecting your family in a positive way.
Yes.
And that's inspiring, I think, for me as a mom. I remember when you started having kids and that your first baby, Frankie. And you did this better than anyone that I've ever seen. You'd always had your babies in the office. I did too. But with the swing, you were going out to the car, pumping in the car.
I was.
Breast milk,
oh my gosh.
And then getting back into the office for another appointment. Tell us about that phase, because
that was
you
fun.
did so good.
Yeah, that was fun. I don't know how I did it, but it was fun. Again, when you just have a why, it's nothing stops you. And so I remember I got, I'm going to age myself, but one of the first cars I had was the first car that had the actual plug in the back seat, right? So I was able to literally plug in my pump. And so I didn't miss a beat. That was important to me. It's all about prioritizing, right? So if you trim the fat of everything else and you just focus on what's non-negotiable to you, breastfeeding was to me, then you just make it happen.
Yeah, you just made it happen.
I just did it. Yeah, I scheduled myself great, and I didn't miss a beat, and I time budgeted with every moment. And I used my resources, and I brought my kids to the office so other people could play with them and entertain them while I got stuff done. And then I would go home, and it was hard to get to that point, but it worked.
I feel like our kids have like all these aunts and uncles that they can look up to that are good examples.
It's definitely a blessing. More than anything, it can be chaotic. Other people might not think they can do it, but you just get it done.
Yeah.
You do what you have to do.
How do you think your daughter, for example,
Yes,
Lexi,
yeah,
how do you think this business, or you as a strong female entrepreneur, how do you think that's affected her? How do you think she looks at you as her mom?
Well, I'm really super proud of her. And when you as a parent make the tough decisions to fight through adversity and do it anyways, we don't realize what that example does for our children. So Lexi, she's so cute. She just started her own business. She's all into it. She did it all on her own and then brought it to my husband and I.
And she's
Frank and I.
now?
She's 11.
Goodness, she's 11.
And this isn't her first business. This is just the first one she's actually done stuff with, right? So we're really excited about. So she's asking me questions that she's seen in the business, right? So it's given her this knowledge base and this maturity that I am sorry, but she would not have otherwise. That's a fact.
Right.
I have videos of her in the training room speaking to groups that aren't really there, right? From the stage, talking like mom. And she just has a poise and a confidence about her that definitely has come from her seeing me and dad. Yeah. Just on the stage and leading and right, we have to shift from being bossy sometimes with her, right? She gets bossy, but other than that, she's really sort of picked up on everything, all of it.
Yeah, I've seen that sometimes that children of entrepreneurs can be a little bit bossy, but they know what they want. And they're assertive, and it's different. They'll go to the doctor, and instead of just shut their mouth and sit there, they're telling the doctor, hey, well, what about this?
That's
and what
right.
about that? And they can speak to adults differently in a very mature way.
We worry less about those kids for sure.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you mentioned your why.
Yes.
So what was your biggest why coming up?
Coming into the business, I thought my biggest why was my mom. And that was important to me to get her somewhat financially stable, right? And I knew I was going to be a resource for her.
Your mom's battled with Crohn's disease.
Quite a bit.
Yeah,
a lot of medical issues, a lot of financial issues, and so that was a definite thing I had to shore up. And this business enabled me to do that very quickly.
Yeah.
But then
we
it
went
became
together very early on and met with your mom and
what a blessing
went over
that
her
was.
goals and
And she had just come into the only money she was ever going to earn through her dad passing. And I got to tell you, with all due respect to my mom, that money would have been gone. So that was a huge part of my conviction and deepening of my love for the business, and grateful to you for that. But then it became about my kids and my husband and us just having a great life. And when people say, what's your why? It's really easy to say very generally, I just want great life. But I want freedom, and I don't want to be controlled by anything. In fact, I want to control. I'm kidding. That's not really the case. But I want to be able to live where I want and be in the neighborhood that I want and expose my kids to the right people, because every decision we make and everywhere we place our kids determines the next step. It either gives them more options or it takes them away, right? And so I just want, in this current climate, economically or politically or socially, I want to be able to protect my family. And right now we're experiencing exactly why it was worth it.
Absolutely. I feel the same way right now. Like, just to have that burden that so many families are dealing with right now, just
not worry about it.
That's
right. Yeah. It's huge.
And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to myself that I paid the price.
Yes, that's right.
As an entrepreneur and went through the tough stuff all those years.
Well, and you paying the price is why I have a better lifestyle, right? So those decisions they do affect other people, that you stayed, right? Long enough to mentor me.
I love that. So I know that, you started having kids, you handled it really well, you balanced it all out. One of the tough things that we all go through, we're always going to have tough things either in the business or in our personal lives. And I noticed one of the hard things that you had to deal with was the passing of your father.
Yes.
How did that affect your business, your life?
It's crazy, because during that difficult time in my life, you really see who steps up and who's right? Who supports you and what you've done over in the past and how it works now. And the team fought and we hit great goals, and it almost made it seem like it was for him or a tribute to him. And it just really helped me get through it a lot better. I mean, there's grief, and that goes through different stages, but we have to work on the grief. We have to work on getting through the grief in a positive way, not just submitting to it. And having a team that was running and fighting in spite of all that, I was blessed. And when you're blessed, you get through things way better. So it caused me to be happy, right,
Nice.
during that grief, which allowed me to think of great memories and, right, this is for you, Dad, and really solidify that in my mind, so I was healthy to move on.
Yeah.
The associations are huge.
And I know when he was in the hospital, because you have a business, you didn't have a 9-to-5 job.
Nope.
You didn't have to ask a boss, can
That's
I
right.
go sit in the hospital? And you were down there.
Yeah, every day.
Every day is at a distance,
Yep.
spending time
Like
with your
2 months.
sister during that time.
Yeah, I wasn't working much at all. Conference call here and there.
Right.
And I remember in that 38-day window, we made like $48,000. And I was not
While
there.
he was in the hospital and you were gone.
Yep, and Frank was not full-time yet. That was the business. That was the team. That's the beauty of what we do.
And that's really
So
the
worth
difference
it.
of being an employee, a self-employed person,
Absolutely.
or a business owner. While
right.
you can have your focus completely somewhere else,
Yes.
where it needs to be, with your family,
Yep.
not even working, not paying any attention
That's
to
right.
it, and make $48,000 in that month.
Because we paid a price early on.
Yeah,
Because we worked for it early on, right?
so worth it.
Don't have to ask for permission to do anything.
Yeah.
That was great.
So what would you, if I may ask you a question, if you were to text yourself, text you back when you were getting started in this business, what would you tell yourself?
So I would have texted myself and looked at it every day, keep it simple. Like go back to the basics, don't overcomplicate it. Done is better than perfect. That's more than one text, but some version of that.
You are known to send very long texts.
I know. The more we know, the more discipline we have to not go down that road. So it definitely complicates and sort of clouds things. So that naive right approach I had early on, I would like to go back to that. The simplicity of the business. That's what Cash is really good at, right? Keeping things really simple. So sometimes I wish I could remind myself of that more often.
Yeah, I try to remind myself of that all the time.
Right? And just do it anyways, even though
Not
things are
overthinking
tough.
it.
Yeah, just do it anyways.
Awesome.
We get really distracted by the distractions.
Well, tell me, what is like some of your, if you were to talk to the moms out there, or just the females in general in business, what are some of your favorite books? What are some of the influences out there that have influenced you?
Great question. There's a lot of podcasts I like. Rachel Hollis's book really inspired me. Girl,
Nice.
Wash Your Face. That was one of the first books I'd read that really talked about the struggle of the balance and trying to be perfect and what that looks like.
Yes.
And so it was really relatable. The Power Seed by Christine Knapsack. She is a client of ours, but just a great book. It talks about just being a woman in business in the power seat. And then there's, 3 Steps to a Happy Family and the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Families. Like I've gotten value from that significantly. And it's really helped our family be happier, right? And more organized and efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are some of the people that have really influenced you in business?
So you,
Okay.
really, I mean, Jamie you've been the rock, really. I mean, not everybody has somebody like you. So, and it sounds sort of, I don't know. I hope you understand the sincerity in which this comes from. Honestly, Jamie, I cannot say that I trust you 100%, and I'm so lucky because there's really nobody that people have that they know that they really have their best interest at heart. Like 100% all the time, so you never have to question their agenda. You can always take it for face value, and that's just been the biggest blessing to me, and that's you 100%. Other than that, it's just been distant mentors. But you, really, and my husband.
Yeah.
Just his support and belief in me and wanting me to win, that's been great as well. So I've drawn from that quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, what advice would you give? What do you think is the most important advice you would give to women out there that are wanting to go from, like you did, make the jump from employee to business owner?
My advice to women who want to make that jump is to just do it. Make that jump, make the decision, don't talk yourself out of it. Because once you make the decision, everything else can be worked out. The right person will come into your life at the right time, the right opportunity, and we as women can handle anything. So you just sort of have to dive in and make it happen. And just know and have faith that everything's going to turn out great, and that's the example your kids need to see. Yeah. And you can bring a lot of value to your household as the woman by contributing that way, right? I think we sell ourselves short if we just stay in a role. We don't need to, right? And you don't have to sacrifice your family to do it. So I would say just do it. Stop making excuses, stop questioning it, stop hesitating. It's never going to be perfect. Just do it.
Nice. Just go after your dream.
Absolutely. Find somebody to mentor you, find the right opportunity, and go.
Good, good. How about to moms specifically? You mentioned earlier striving to find the balance, but what about the mom that's out there that is struggling as a self-employed person or as a business owner, and they're trying to find that balance, and they're trying to really nurture their marriage,
Sure,
be there. You're in the kids' classroom quite a bit, or at least pre-COVID and distance learning. You were very involved in your kids' lives. So, any tips to moms?
Yeah, leave them alone. Like, honestly, I would say that what we think our kids need, they don't. Right?
Yeah, you had told me before you found yourself being a helicopter mom a little bit.
Well, when you spend too much time with your kids, it's almost inevitable. Like, I'm not saying don't spend time. I'm saying spend the right time and give the right messages. And one of the things I've done is I've been very aware of what I need my kids to know at given times. Like right now, Lexi needs to be about modesty and purity and some things as she goes into her teenage years. And so I'm really focused on that, and that's quality time. That's what she needs. Same thing with Frankie as a mother to my son. So I think just focusing on what they need right now is enough, and don't helicopter them, right? Just let them live and keep your finger on the pulse of what they need when they need it.
Have you ever had times where you beat yourself up or had the doubt that you're doing,
Oh, I still do.
Am I screwing my kids up? Am I doing it right? Am I spending enough time? Have you ever had that where you're just feeling so overwhelmed?
Yes, and it has nothing to do with me being an entrepreneur. I think it just has to do with my imparting wisdom and who my kids are becoming. Like, they're amazing kids. But I think as parents, we just expect so much and take on so much. So it has nothing to do with the business. But yes, sometimes I feel like I'm failing every day. But then my kids do something that make me realize, nope, we're good, right? But yeah, it is very overwhelming, especially despite our best efforts. Everybody around us or the things around us make it pretty hard. Yeah, pretty hard to raise, the kids we want.
Awesome. Well, one last question.
Yes.
That's okay. What is your idea, or how do you describe happy and strong?
A secure family who acknowledges that they are each other's rock, and it's not us against each other, it's us against the world, and we can do anything and be in any situation and get through anything, and we have each other. I never want my kids to worry about anything external, because they know that internally they've got the strength and support to get through everything, and the love and the resources. And so to me, that means I've got a lot of work to do, right? To get strong and to just continue to maintain that strength in my family. And I feel like I am the rock.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love that.
Thank you.
You guys, what I got from today was growth. She's constantly saying, yes, I'm striving to be better. It's not going to be perfect. And I think as women, sometimes we try to be perfectionists and we beat ourselves up because maybe are we doing enough? Are we enough? Are we good enough this or that? And as long as you're always constantly working on yourself and you have a vision of what you want your business, your family, your marriage to look like, you can constantly be becoming better. So thank you, Dana, again for today.
It's awesome. It's fun. Thank you.
Awesome.